Hello there everyone, and welcome to another UXW Bill video. Today we have a complaint of insufficient cooling from this Armstrong Air central air conditioning system, and we're going to take a look into why that happens to be. And one of the first things that we're going to check is the condition of the condenser coils on this outside unit. Now, I don't really think these are the main problem, but as you can see, these things are a mess. They need desperately to be cleaned, so we're definitely going to do that. The trouble that's been reported is that the outlet air, even from the register closest to the evaporator coil, is only about 70.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and at the return we have return air that's around 77 degrees, and the unit simply will not satisfy, and it never stays off for very long. But the first order of business is going to be to get all these guards off of the side and clean these coils. Then we'll turn the system on and we'll see if it performs any better at all. I doubt that it will. I think we're going to be looking at some sort of a refrigerant circuit problem here, probably low on charge if I had to guess. But follow along and we will find out. I actually have a smaller brush than this, but I can't find it, which is pretty much the story of my life. But we're not going to worry about that. With some care, this will work fine. And we'll just go around and we'll get all this stuff that'll come off of here, we'll get it away from here. Then we'll start with a deeper cleaning. Now, with the majority of the loose dust gone, what I'm going to do now is turn to the use of some liquid condenser cleaner. This is pretty mild stuff. And we're just going to spray that on there, coat the coil quite thoroughly, and let it do its thing. This is made by a company called Rector Seal. Yeah, we'll just put it on there, go around all the different sides here, and then we'll flush it out with some plain water, which is what's in this tank over here. And now we'll just let it sit for a few minutes before we rinse it off. Now it's been a few minutes, and I'll go after it with some plain old cold water here. Just get all that cleaner out of this coil. And yeah, there's a little dirt over there I need to pay more attention to, but I'll work on that in a minute, now that I found my small brushes. And now I'll go ahead and I'll dry this coil off. I've blown as much moisture out of the coil as I'm likely to be able to get. So the next step will be to turn the unit back on and let it sit and run for probably 20 minutes or so, just to dry that coil the rest of the way, or at least get it a lot closer to being completely dry, because if you don't do that, it'll skew the readings if I do in fact end up putting gauges on this system. After those 20 minutes have gone by, I'm going to go in the house and I'm going to take a look and see what the supply and return temperatures look like and what the split ultimately ends up being between the two. And yes, folks, it is plenty hot out here today, and if you're curious what that is in metric units, well, there you go. Easy peasy. Here's the supply air temperature, and here's the return. So we've got a short, approximately 12 degree temperature split between supply and return, but I'd really like to see closer to 15 to 20. It's better than 7, so we helped it a little bit, but I think we're going to need to put some gauges on this thing, or at least I'm inclined to, just to get a better idea of what's going on. And I'm going to hope to high heaven that those 20-year-old service valves actually reseal, because if they don't, I might have to sit down and ponder my existence for a while. Well, here we are, for better or for worse. Right now things aren't too bad. Turn the system on and let it stabilize out and just see what kind of numbers we get. So this is where we're starting out at, and I would say those pressures look a little on the low side to me. Looks like the spiders have been working on making themselves a very nice home here in this electrical compartment. Yeah, a person probably ought to turn the power off before they do this. And never, ever, ever touch anything in here unless you know exactly what you're doing, because if you don't, you will be sorry. You will probably get yourself the dubious honor of a very expensive repair bill. I'm not against people doing things themselves, but know your limits. And just to answer the inevitable questions from the viewing audience, as well as the folks who won't read video descriptions for late-breaking updates, yes, I have tested that capacitor, and despite its appearance, it is fully in spec. Plus, you've heard this unit start, so it does not seem to labor or struggle with that at any time. I have also checked the filter. It is clean, and the ductwork is unfortunately a bit compromised, but there's just not very much that I can do about that. It's much more a problem on the supply side than it is the return end of things. It's just not very well done, nor very well laid out. We're not here today to do a massive re-architecting of the system's ductwork. I'm just trying to get this thing to do a little bit better of a job of cooling, and to find out why it's struggling with that particular task. So I'll continue to let it run so that it can stabilize out, and then we'll get some superheat and subcooling numbers. This system uses a fixed metering device and not a thermostatic expansion valve. Well, there's a look at the data plate, and you can tell that time has definitely gotten even with it. As best I can tell, the model number reads 2SCU13LB130P-1, and we have a serial number of 1607E11886. I believe that the first 4 digits of the serial number are the date of manufacturer in week and year, so 16th week of 2007. Would have made it one of the last gasp of the R22 air conditioning systems, which were made only up until about 2010 or thereabouts, before they finally started to disappear from the market. Well, here's where our pressures are right now. No, those are our pressures, but we have superheat and subcooling. The superheat looks way high to me, and the subcooling looks low, so I'm definitely going to say this thing is at least a little bit low on charge, although our suction line is somehow managing to sweat. Although who couldn't be sweating out here in this weather, I have no idea. But I think it's time to slap a little fresh R22 into this thing and see what it's up to. And of course, after all these years, there's no guarantee that it's actually R22 in here, but we're just going to have to make that assumption for the time being, because there's no label on it that says otherwise. And here, of course, is a look at the current that's being drawn, which I also think is a little bit low. The RLA on the compressor, which would be basically its maximum permissible current draw, is 14.1, and they say 1 amp for the fan motor. What we're looking at right here is actually shared between both of them, so let's say that the fan motor's pulling an amp. That leaves us with a compressor pulling about 7.2, which does seem a little bit low to me when it's 92 odd degrees outside. So yeah, I think we're dealing with a low charge situation here. Alright, so I've got a jug of R22 at the ready here. let's just slip a little in here and see what this thing does in reaction to it. All right, so we started out at 30 degrees worth of superheat, and I've done some calculations and came up with a figure of 9 degrees target superheat. We're at just shy of a pound of refrigerant 22 in. And we're definitely getting closer to that magical number. And as you always should, I have just been taking this very nice and easy, giving it a little shot of refrigerant on the suction side, then a couple minutes to move on through and reach its happy space, and then we go again. And we'll just keep doing that until I'm right around 9 degrees worth of superheat. Okay, hopefully everything there is in frame. I really can't tell because I've got it leaned up against the opening to the bulkhead here. This is the part that always makes me nervous. The pucker factor here is just absolutely enormous, especially on a refrigerant 22 system like this one, because I really don't know if these nearly 20-year-old service valves are going to reseal when I take the hoses off of them. And depending upon how badly they leak, if they don't, sometimes all you can do is just watch the unfolding events in horror and just feel utterly and completely helpless, like you're about 1.5 inches tall. So I'm hoping we don't do that, but I've shut the unit off. I've given it time for the pressures to go ahead and equalize. I've got this valved off right here, and we're just going to start with the high side hose and see what happens. And you got to be careful when you do this. Some people would even say you should always wear gloves, and I would, but that greatly reduces one's dexterity. It's an absolute trade-off. So yeah, I've put this off about as far as I can. I've got my core removal and replacement tool here if I need it, but somehow I think if I do, I probably won't be able to get it on there fast enough, and I certainly won't risk a frostbite to do such. Got the serviced valve caps here, got a wrench to put them on with. Yeah, can you tell I'm just stalling here because I really don't want to do this? Okay, I think that one reclosed. I think we're good on that one. Yeah, I think that one's okay. So we'll put this back on here. These were none too tight when I started on this, and of course you don't want to crank the living bejesus out of them. Just snug will do. Now we'll go ahead and we'll get the low side one off of there. This one's a lot less convenient to get at. Oh, well, let's see. How badly do you think this is going to go? Not too badly at all. Again, I don't even think it's leaking. If it is, it's not leaking too bad. So we'll put the service cap back on there. Hopefully you're getting more of a view than just my big fat elbow. Hopefully you're actually seeing what I'm doing. Because, yeah, I'm working totally blind here. I really can't tell. We'll go ahead and we'll get on this one. And just snug. And there we go. It's better off than it was. It's still not perfect. I'm getting about a 15, 16 degree temperature split inside. And this equipment should really be replaced. We've got kind of a mishmash of different stuff here. Train furnace from 2002. Advanced distributor products, low profile coil, because space down there and what little basement there is extremely tight. And then we have this Armstrong Air condensing unit. Now, of course, you could say that ADP and Armstrong Air are related because I believe Lennox is the parent of both. But never mind that for now. Let's go ahead and get the covers back on this thing and hopefully get out of this heat, because I'm tired of being out here. I'm just soaked. All right, everyone, that's the end of the story. The homeowner simply wanted to have this system charged. They were not interested in a comprehensive leak check or anything like that. And being as this system had performed reasonably well over the past 6 years up until just now, while I'm confident there is undoubtedly a leak, I'm going to hazard a guess that it's a very slow one. So you can certainly disagree with what was done, but I did what was asked of me. So as always, thank you for watching, and I certainly look forward to hearing your constructive commentary. Hopefully everyone will be able to stay nice and cool in here now.